Welcome to the first episode of Tumorously Yours, which is our passion project. And the idea was to talk about everything cancer and make it something that can be a conversation without being a taboo, especially from anybody who's been a fighter, survivor, who's lost somebody up close, who's seen the disease from up close. And it's not giving any gyan. The idea is to just have a conversation because sometimes when you are going through something similar, all you want to know is that there are other people out there feeling the same way. So it's just for that. So thank you for doing this. When this idea came about, I was talking to Liz Auntie about it, and she had very excitedly said we must do it. And she promised me that she will be my first guest on the show. And at that point, this didn't have a name, it was just an idea. And she said, we must tell people what it is to go through this on an everyday basis. We said we'll wait for her to get better and then start it. What is making me very happy and I feel in equal amounts sad is that Auntie is not here, but I have her in you guys. So thank you so much, Brinda and Sudheer, both children of Liz Auntie, who couldn't be here, but who is here in spirit and through her children. Tell us a little bit first about yourself, uh, about Auntie, about her journey, what cancer she had, how many bouts she had of it, the journey. Overview in your own words, however.
So I'm Sudheer. I'm Elizabeth's son. And I left home when I was 20 to go to school in the US. But in the family, I think I'm closest to my mom. And when I left for about 9 years, most of our contact was through videos, WhatsApp video, texting, calling, except for the occasional 3 or 4 times I came home for Christmas or the one time she came over for my graduation. That's how it's been for the last 9 years. So mom she started getting sick before the cancer. She had a bad case of kidney stones and had to go into the hospital, pretty serious. But then even before kidney stones, she had psoriasis for the longest time that I can remember. So, and then, after psoriasis, then the kidney stones. And then after kidney stones, then the cancer 3 years ago started.
3 years ago would be 2019, right?
2019.
2019. Okay.
2019 is when she started treatment in Vizag with a doctor. And I think she did, I can't remember how many, but quite a few rounds of chemo and radiation. And then after you do your course, Tamana, you know better, you get a break and then you go back and you do a test again. I think when they did the test again, it didn't fully clear. And then that doctor suggested,
the first time her test was fine. Like, I think you do it every 6 months. So the first 6 months, she was clear. And then when they did it next time, so like a year later, it came back.
Right. And when it came back pretty bad, and then that doctor suggested, let's do more chemo and radiation. And he was suggesting a whole lot more than she did already.
So I think like after the second one, I don't think the second one they couldn't treat it fully before the third one came back. And that's actually when she started getting treatment in Hyderabad.
When she did surgery, the doctors in Hyderabad suggested you do surgery on the back. I think they did surgery, but then it came clear. She was in remission for a bit, maybe 3 months or so. But then when they checked back again, it metastasized to the breast.
What was the kind of cancer that Liz Auntie had?
So she had cervical.
It started with cervical, but with each time it was coming back, it was spreading. So it spread to her back, then it spread to her breast. So it was like a little all over.
So that's when he suggested this more aggressive treatment option. She was okay doing treatment. She wanted to fight this. So when we went ahead with that treatment, and I remember she was in a lot of pain before starting this third round of chemo, to the point where she couldn't sleep. Even the walking with the walker was becoming difficult at that point. I mean, the doctor did tell us we're we're only fighting the symptoms at this point. We're not fighting the cancer. There's no way we can find a cure.
Okay, so how did you like see her change before and during the whole treatment of the whole journey, the whole cancer journey? How did you see her change?
So she was someone who, because like her dad was never at home, he would work abroad. So she was someone who took care of us right from the time we were kids, like anything, like taking us to school, getting us joined into a school, buying the apartment that we have now, everything. She did it on her own. So even in society, she's known like as a very strong person. Like everyone knew that she's like someone super strong. But then I think when the cancer hit, she, even though people around her might have become weaker, she was someone who became more strong. She would always like convince my dad or someone, be like, no, don't cry, that's okay, I'll fight this. That was something that she would always say, like, don't worry, I'll fight this. So I think like when she got the cancer, even if she was like dealing with it internally, outside, she never let people know what she was feeling. She always put on a very strong front. And I think only towards the end, a little, like not to any of us, like that's what we are, but to her sister, like our auntie Susie, I think she was the only one. She let her know that, you know, okay, I'm starting to feel pain, I'm starting to like lose a little, but none of us knew anything other than the strength she showed us. Like.
For sure.
There's one more thing about this situation. Like, you both were living far away when this happened, right? And like personally, even I stay very far away from my family. And when anything happens to any one of them, I'm like, oh, should I like try and come over there? Do you want me to like leave everything? But it's difficult, you know. That's in reality, you can't do that because you are building something for yourself, or you're building a future for yourself. But you want to go back home, and it's tough, and you feel torn, you know. So like, how did you guys deal with the ups and downs, you know, like of a treatment, then the reports coming in? Do you guys figure out like any ways to make her feel better in this long distance way?
Yeah, I think that was the toughest part about all this, especially when it first came out. There's not much you can do. Even if I left and came, I wasn't sure how much of help I would be. And then also, yeah, you have a job here. You can't really just quit and leave. You can't come back. So that was tough. And then COVID happened, which made it even worse because
oh my God,
even if you wanted to go, you can't go. So 2019 through 22, I couldn't go. That's when she went through, you know, I don't know how many, 2-3 rounds of different treatment options and surgeries and whatnot. The best you could do, the best I could do was just talk to her, just ask her how her treatment is going. And also not, when you talk to them, I think I noticed, try not to talk about cancer only, because I think that's all we have in our minds. But to them, they're still living, they're still having a life, and they're trying to think about it, but also not think about it all the time. So
like a part of what they're going to, it's not everything that they're going through. So you talk about everything.
Right. Yeah, just try to send stuff that they couldn't get there. Small things like Birkenstocks. I didn't know you get that in India now, but those are like
She loved books.
Comfy sandals. Huh?
She loved books.
Well, I got the wrong size, so But other than that, just check up on them now and then and just act normal, I think, was what she was kind of looking for, even though that's hard to do. But I thought, that I think made them feel better.
And I can tell you, this is something that I would also face a lot, because if somebody would meet me and talk to me only about cancer, I would be like, okay, there are so many things happening in your life and in my life other than this disease, that please talk to me like I'm a normal person also, and not just someone who's going through cancer. So I remember talking to her as well about it, where she said, why does everybody just come and ask me how am I feeling? Tell me, which movie you watched last.
Oh yeah, she watched, I think, since she was going through treatment, she watched almost every movie that's on Netflix.
Yeah, I don't think there's any movie on Prime or Netflix that she has not watched, like any language.
Yeah.
I know, for sure. Brinda, how did you deal with this from a distance?
So when it first started, I was there. Like, even though I was not living in Vizag, I was in Hyderabad, but I would try going. Like, I think I would go once a month. She would have a chemo once a month, so I would go every time she had her chemos. At that time, it didn't feel like obviously it was a big thing, but it didn't feel like such a big thing because she was taking it so well. She was responding to chemo very well. she was very strong, like I said, like not just mentally, but even physically, it didn't bring her down. She didn't lose hair. Every time we would go to the hospital, that's like a very funny thing, but every time we would go into the hospital and people would think my dad was the patient and not my mom. Like, then she'd be like, no, I'm the patient. And no one in that cancer hospital knew that she was going through cancer. So it was okay in the beginning. And then when she was fine for a year, like that's when I decided to move to the US, and she was the one who helped me with everything, like my finding the colleges, packing, everything, and she was perfectly fine. So at that point I was like, yeah, it's okay if I go now, she's okay. And then I came here, and then I think a few months later I found out, and that was like, oh no, like that hit me a little hard. But then we had a lot of people at home helping, and I would talk to her like every day, and it was fine. The second time around also was okay. And then the third time, when she got a little sick during the third time around, but I couldn't come because of visa issues and stuff like that. So I was stuck here, and I think that was a little hard. And the only time I could go see her was when she was like really bad.
Yeah. Okay. No, it's fine.
Yeah, this.
She's a star.
Okay, so
Anyway.
I'm going to ask the question in a different direction, slightly. So, what is something that you learned about yourself as well as about her that cancer taught as a whole in the entire 3 years that she went through it?
I think for me, it taught me about how life is so unpredictable, and then anything can happen at any moment. You know, anybody can get sick, whether you're young, old, fit, not fit, whatever it be, and it can just go away, you know, in a second. And so I think before she went through this, I would put away a lot of things I wanted to do for, you know, once I settle down, or once I, you know, move to a certain place, or once I get to the certain level, I'll do X, Y, and Z. Instead of, you know, no, just all you have is today, all you have is now, instead of trying to live for this future state that probably will never happen. Do it now, you know.
Be more present, right? Like,
be more present.
You always do this,
right?
right? Like in school also, you're like, first kill it till 10th standard, you know, then you're like, oh, just finish till 12th, you know,
12th.
just do well in college, then you
college.
have to live, and then job, and like going on and on, man. Like,
I think for me, it was more I learned the importance of having the right people around you, not just like just being there, but just in your life, having the right people. Like mom passing away really kind of filtered people in my life. People I lost touch with, again, I kind of got close to, and people who I thought were really close to were not. But that was something I think was very important to know, the kind of people that you have in your life around you. Cancer kind of taught me who's important, who's not.
you know, right now, one of the big issues I'm dealing with is just loneliness, right? And this is itself taking a big toll on my mental health. But like, if you have your normal life, and then on top of that, like when someone like a parent is going through a cancer treatment, did you guys go through any mental health issues? If you can vocalize, like, did you identify what it was, and like, how did you try and deal with it? Because I feel like this is something a lot of people are going through, you know.
From a very young age, I think I dealt with anxiety. So GAD, general anxiety disorder. I'm pretty vocal about it. I'm not ashamed of it. I was always open about it. I just didn't know what it was until much later. I always knew I was always nervous all the time. Like any setting make me nervous. Like even if I had to, anything that has to do with getting outside of my comfort zone. Even if it meant going out to a new restaurant and eating, couldn't do it. Or eating in front of a new person, or going to a new city. It's not fun. It's nerve-wracking for me. So not until 24, 25-ish is when I started seeking help and trying to work on, you know, some of the very basic stuff, just to, when you're in that situation, how do you handle yourself, and what you can do to help make you feel better. But I think only until much later is when I started getting deeper and understanding, okay, what's causing these things, what's actually letting these things happen. So while mom was going through her treatment, I was kind of doing a lot of like therapy on my end, because there was a point where I came to India to visit. This is before I came last year. That I just had a terrible time. I just wasn't having a good time. I came for a couple of weeks, and I just struggled almost every day with anxiety, just crippling anxiety as I woke up until I went to bed. And so I had this fear almost to go back home to India, because I was afraid I'd feel that again, even just going back to my own home, So part of me almost avoided going back, but going through treatment put me in a situation where I could go, and I had to go. It got so bad with mom that I had to go. And so I had coping mechanisms, a lot of journaling and whatnot, and also dealing with a little more deeper issues. So when I got there, I struggled a little bit, I think the first week, but after that, I was able to, handle the anxiety. And on top of that, with mom being the way she was, I don't think that I would have been able to go on. Even if I did, I don't think I'd be of any help. I probably would have made things worse. Anytime something made me anxious, I would jot it down and see. Just seeing it made, made no sense. Like these are just your thoughts, right? They're not who you are. And then when I wrote it down and I read it, great, like half the battle was solved, was gone there.
The way y'all dealt with the situation, even in the last week that auntie was there, and like you said, that you could have maybe added to it. And honestly, at that moment, it would have been okay, because it's normal, right, for you to also be very, very maybe overwhelmed and maybe crying. But I remember I was there, and both of you, I have never met anybody who has dealt with this situation so strongly and with so much grace. But how did you handle that? Because there's no doubt that you must have felt a tsunami of emotions at every second of the day, right? So how did you individually handle that, and how do you handle that even today? The fact that like you're talking to us, or the fact that when you think about it in general at any point, how do you handle that tsunami?
So the thing with mom was, what she was feeling inside, she would never show it out. Like the thing she showed people out is, yeah, I can handle it no matter what. And especially with her psoriasis, I think the main cause of it is keeping a lot of your stress inside, like in your mind. That's how it comes out. And cancer, a lot of these, the main issue why it happens is because you put everything inside. And I don't know what to do, but I'm exactly that type of person. Like no one knows what I feel unless I want them to know. It's good in situations like when you say, oh, we showed a lot of grace, but sometimes it's not that good to always hide what you're feeling. Like,
for sure. So, but how do you deal with it? Like at an individual level, even if you're not telling anybody, how are you dealing?
So like a lot of people give me the advice that I need to start therapy, which I have. So I'm hoping that will help. I don't know.
How has your dad been through this? How has he been, and how have you been together also?
Honestly, before the cancer, my dad was someone who could not deal with sickness. Like, in fact, when she got sick with her kidney issue, she was in the hospital for like more than, I think, a month or two. She was like in the ICU. She was really bad. My dad he couldn't handle it. He was like all ways breaking down. He was like someone very weak at that point. And I think from then I kind of got used to like being okay with hospitals, being okay with blood. Because then when the cancer happened, I don't know if it was because me and Sudheer were not there and he had no option, but I saw that he got a lot stronger in the way that he was okay dealing with all this medical stuff, hospitals, taking care of her like he was strong till the end. He was like pretty strong taking care, and I think that's because mom always told him that, don't cry, it's gonna be okay, I'll be fine. But then I think after mom passed away, so he took it really hard. Still is, but yeah.
Understandably, he didn't take it too well. Is still kind of dealing with it. We all are, but I think with him, he's a very emotional person, very sensitive. So it all just comes out. Like the rest of us kind of put it in. I think he's the opposite. He'll throw it out at you. But he was open to therapy. I was able to get him to start seeing someone not too long ago. So, I mean, it's only been 6 months, 7 months or so since their passing. So this is going to take time. This is how it's going to be.
Now, while there are those 4, 5, 8 people who are right there with you every single day going through the journey, and the treatment and the side effects, there are a bunch of other people, like you said, like she had a lot of friends. I also, like, 2 of them are here. Brinda, Adnan, both are people who were both in the US when I was going through treatment, but people I would depend on emotionally and who I could talk to, just to feel better. To, if I'm having a tough day, they'll make me laugh about something, whatever. So how important do you think a support system is in this scenario, and how do you think it affected her? How did you feel about the fact that she had such a strong support system in so many people?
Oh, I think that's big. That's everything, because she was with people all the time, like my aunt and her kids and her husband, a couple other relatives would, they lived closer. So she was with them the whole time. Like I remember my aunt would cook for her and feed her.
And do you have anything to add?
No, yeah, exactly. Like, I think, yeah, we had a huge support system in Hyderabad, but in Vizag as well. I think Bina auntie, Lakshmi auntie, like, and we, like my dad's aunt, they would take care of her, like whenever she was in Vizag, every day, come take her to the hospital, cook for her, stay at home. Like, just, I think company is something that really matters at that point. Like, you need people to talk to, and she had a lot of people that she could talk to.
So what are some things, like when you were going through treatment, what's something that you wished people did more of, or did less of, or said, or didn't do, or did
more of was for sure visit. I although I had, like, I don't know, so many people visited during that treatment, where it just
Someone's house
made
was a hotel.
yeah, it's true. A lot of people visited. My mom was extremely welcoming with a job. She was also like, yeah, let her friends come, let cousins come. And it did make me feel better. Just the fact that they're not treating me differently, because I'm already, like, my skin has changed. I know I'm looking different. I'm feeling sick. My body is not reacting the same way that it would react, like today, for example. And at that time, when somebody's not necessarily pointing it out to you that, you're bald now, or that you're looking different, it just makes you feel some sense of normalcy, little bit, that okay, maybe this will get better. That hope, at least, it keeps it alive. And what people I wish didn't do, and did, like, way lesser of, was point it out all the time. Oh my God, Sudhir, you will not believe the kind of weird things people say and do. There was an auntie who was a neighbor who came second chemo, just after my second chemo, and I'd lost all my hair. And she came and she said, "Oh, so you have cancer, you poor thing. Now, how will you get married?" And I'm thinking, I really don't know if I'm going to live beyond like 2 months from today. You asked me, how will I get married? I wish people really, really, really stop pointing it out that you have cancer. I already know, I'm going through it. What is the one advice that you would want to give, or one thing you'd like to say to other children who have seen something similar in their life, the pain of losing a parent?
I think I've been fortunate that I'm much older, not because I know some people go through this when they're very young, and that's just tough. One thing is it's okay to grieve. There's nothing wrong in when crying or missing a person. Um, it's good. It's normal to ask for help. Spend as much time as you can with this person, your parent, because you can't do that later. So you don't have to, like, the one thing I struggled with is, okay, if I go back, like, how much am I helping? What can I really do? Maybe I'm not doing enough, being too hard on yourself. I think you really don't have to do much. You just being there and spending time with the person is in itself a lot, right? Small things like that too goes a long way. Also, this is something I learned. You don't want to do everything for them. You still want them to do certain things. This is something I read. So even if it's as something as like cutting up the vegetables, if they're able to let them do it. If they want to use the walker to walk, even though you have the wheelchair, allow them to do, because you don't want to make them feel like they can't do anything. Certain things like that, even though it's hard to see them do it. Like I still remember my mom trying to put this strap around her ankle because it would numb the pain. And just to get that on was a struggle for her. And we had helpers or something. We would do it sometimes, but sometimes we would let her do it because she wanted to do it. And just seeing her try to put it on was so hard because she's struggling to just do something so simple. And it's just hard to see somebody do that. But I think it's good to let them do certain things like that, just to make them feel like they can still do things, even if it's as small as putting a Band-Aid on or cutting some vegetables on. So
I can definitely relate to this because, like, recently my grandmom broke her hip and she went through a hip replacement surgery, and she was like very, very handicapped after that. But when we allowed her to do small things, right? Like when the doctors told us we would try to feed her or something, but she'd be like, no, I want to put the spoon in, I want to eat it myself, right? Like put the food in front of me, but don't feed it to me. Like, let me do this. Right? That
right.
sense of agency which they get from that is like, it is a boost also, right? Like complete dependence makes them feel handicapped, but like codependence makes them also feel like, okay, we are in this together, working together, and we'll get through this.
They still have some sense of control. It's like they haven't lost it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if this is what you mean, but I did want to bring this up in today's thing, was the HPV vaccine.
Yeah.
So definitely that's an advice to anyone who, like any girl, anyone who has a sister, daughter, or whatever, like get the vaccine. It's something like mom's cancer, like her entire journey started with the cervical cancer, which is a very, very, very preventable cancer. It's just a simple vaccine, which
I think just like we do our yearly physicals, we should also be screening for cancer, because then your chances of survival and your chances of taking a more aggressive treatment option, right? Mm-hmm. You have more options for that. But we just don't do that.
Yeah, Tamanna has been asking me to do it for 2 years now.
Yes, Adnan. So as children, Lant was always the person who knew all the naughty things we'd been up to, all the things that we were scared of telling our parents. She was always the coolest parent who knew all the antics we were up to. And now it is on you both to take this coolness forward in life. So I want to know, what is the one quality from her that you want to have and make sure that you inculcate or take forward in your life?
she would never get angry no matter what you say. Like, she might advise you, but she's not going to get angry. So no matter what I did in life, I told her, like, anything not like it was not just my friends who would come and tell her all the shit they did, but I would myself go and tell her. And I would tell her before I was doing it too, like most of the time, because like it was just the kind of person that she was very open to listening to what you have to say. So I think that's something that I want to be as well. Like, because like I saw my friends, the more stricter the parent is, the more shit they do.
Yeah, right.
As
It's
a,
like, yeah.
yeah. And I was the most sober kid amongst my friends because I didn't have to lie about anything. So I'm like, I didn't feel like doing anything. Like,
So there are so many qualities that I would like to take on. I think it's hard to pick one, but I think having empathy was the biggest one. Just being able to show empathy and use it, especially for people that need it the most, was big. I don't know about like things she would say, but like things she would do stuck out more. Like I remember like Christmas time, I was baking cakes all through December, like cookies and cake, not cookies, but the other stuff, the other sweet stuff, but like tons of cakes. The whole house would stink of cakes. By Christmas time, I'd be sick and tired of cakes.
Great choice of words. I want the house to stink too, like
and that was
stink it up.
something that she did till the end. Like even the year that she got very sick with her kidney thing. So till October, even like November, when she's like, I'm not doing it this year. I'm not gonna go distribute it. I'm just gonna make like one cake for just at home. And December 1st rolls in, and then she's going buying all the ingredients, buying like saris to give all the like helper stuff in school, and like all her maids, whoever. Like that was one thing that she did without fail, was like giving gifts to people during Christmas and like baking cakes for people. Like no matter how sick she, like the year that she got sick, she couldn't do anything, so she would sit on the chair like at the dining table, and then me and our maid Kamla, and she would be like, okay, go do this, go do this, go do that. And we're like, we don't even have to do this. Like, can you stop? But she's like, no, this is something that we have to do. Like,
it's like Liz Auntie is Santa and you two became the elves, in the factory.
yeah.
Turning cakes.
It's like a tradition that continued, and then my mom does it. All her other sisters also do it. The cousins do it too. So, yeah.
Which one of you is more into baking? Okay, Brinda, if you want something to carry forward, this should be it.
I thought I
do
do it this year, but yeah, I'm gonna do it.
Send some.
Like maybe just start with like making for one more person, but this you have to now.
Yeah.
When he's saying one more person, he's meaning him.
Himself, I know it.
I mean, I didn't want to say that, but
Anything you want to say before we wrap up?
Yeah.
Thanks for thinking about us to inaugurate it for you, to do this ribbon cutting opening ceremony.
It's actually a virtual ribbon cutting, right?
Ribbon cutting.
Thank you so much for finding the strength to do this, because it requires a lot of strength, especially because it's not been so long. Thank you for inaugurating it.
For me, yeah, it's this picture. I don't know if you can tell.
Yes.
This is like the last memory I have of her. In tennis, you have to get into a major, you get a wild card entry. Usually you have to be seeded, you have to be top 20 or go through the qualification rounds to get into the Grand Slam. But every year they'll pick one player or two players that did something good in the community, did some charity, or are like exceptionally good, and just give them a wild card entry and get them into the main draw. So I think it sounds dumb, but I feel like she got a wild card entry to do something greater, bigger. Like her journey's done here, and now she's on to the next one to do something similar somewhere else. You have to be special to be chosen to, do this kind of thing.